Thanks. Cool. So, my name is Anirudh Likhite. I lead supply chain for Heavenly Secrets Private Limited, which operates with two brands, Pilgrim and PhD, Proven Honest Derma. Pilgrim is the story that I want to talk to you about. About 3 years ago, so Pilgrim started 6 years ago. About 3 years ago, we decided to go omni-channel. We decided to go offline. And we had a really watertight plan in place. We spent over a year, maybe a year and a half planning, putting together a motley crew of really bright individuals who had broken this model in multiple organizations. We had it all figured out. We were ready to go big, and that's when reality decided to join the meeting. And things went haywire. All right, we had our aeroplane in place, we had our pilot in place, everything was ready. We didn't account for the weather. We didn't account for surprise birds flying in our path. This is a story about what we encountered, how we figured it out, and how we solved that problem, and how we built a resilient, agile, and really responsive model, which I hope to share with all of you, and hope there's some strong takeaways for everyone back here to take home. So let me get started then. I'll just grab the clicker. All right. So this is a story about how we took Pilgrim from a D2C brand, a direct-to-consumer brand, to a direct-to-warehouse, to distributor, to retailer, a wholesaler in the middle, and finally to our end consumer. Not a very catchy abbreviation, a D to W to D to R to C, but you get the drift. Pilgrim started in August 2019, and about a year ago, we also launched another brand, Proven Honest Derma. Pilgrim operates with three major categories: skincare, hair care, and makeup. And we also have Proven Honest Derma, which was brought together by world and global dermatologists, which is very, very deep and very, very advanced skincare that we work with. The brand has grown from about $8 million in 2023 to about $65 million in 26, which is a CAGR of over 100%. And that kind of growth makes us one of the fastest growing D2C brands and beauty and personal care brands in India. And hopefully we gradually build this as we go ahead globally as well. The evolution of the Indian BPC market. So the Indian beauty and personal care market back in 1990 was less than $1 billion. By 2025, it's already become over a $30 billion industry. And if things go the way they're estimated, we're going to be $50 billion plus in just the next 8 to 10 years. That's how big this pie is, and that's how big the market is for all of us to aspire towards. A few of the key reasons why this has happened and how they were able to expand and establish such a strong foothold is largely because of rising disposable incomes, e-commerce, and digitalization that has really scaled, especially after the 2015 and a lot more after 2020, post-COVID, and a shift towards more premium and natural products. A lot of consumers, I'm sure globally, have started reading labels. They don't want those kind of nasties in their products anymore. So a more natural play, a more scientific play that gives you a lot more control on your skincare is what people are looking for. And finally, a very deep expansion into the tier 2s and tier 3s that were a largely ignored market thus far. Further, if you break that BPC market down, a very, very small, insignificant 10% is contributed by online. 90%, a whopping 90% comes from your offline market. That's how huge it is. And a D2C brand is only playing in a very small pool if you're not present offline. And that is where the big game is for brands like us. And in there, you further segmented down. Hardly 20% is organized, where you have control. You can have conversations with channel partners and leaders who will tell you that this is how deep we can go, and you can sit in an office and talk. But an 80% is unorganized trade. You have to go into the streets. You have to go into the smaller stores, standalone stores, mom-and-pop stores, and try to understand how to crack that model. So you can't sit in your office. You need a very deep feet-on-street kind of model to make this happen. And that's where the journey began, on how do we go towards that 90% market, and furthermore, going deeper into that unorganized trade section. To unlock that market share, you obviously need to find out the right route, the right approach, because it's all about getting visibility at your point of purchase. That helps drive sustainable demand and sellout. That helps build further brand trust and loyalty, which in turn gives you a dual omni-channel awareness which builds a more sustainable business model and drives that flywheel in our favor. The offline market and online market differ quite starkly, as this slide will guide you through. Offline, you're going in through rapid placement of your products. You're anticipating sellout. There are higher inventory days because you have multiple touch points. You'll be selling to your distributor, who will hold about 3 months of stock. He'll sell it to a wholesaler who will have similar inventory at his level, to a retailer who will stock as well. And then finally, the stock reaches the consumer. So you have multiple nodes of inventory being held. This also has to be spread regionally across multiple warehouses for you as well. Online, it's more simple. You directly deliver to an Amazon warehouse or a Nykaa or a Flipkart hub. It's a lot more direct. There's a lot more predictability. They have very, very strongly heuristic engines that help you predict your demand better. So it's a lot more controlled and measured. Secondly, your stock is not easily visible offline. You don't know if there is a small store out there in the remote parts of the northeast of India, let's say Guwahati. What inventory is that retailer carrying? How much more is he going to order? That kind of predictability is hard to get unless you have stronger systems, which you do have very, very well in an online space. Your marketplaces are really advanced. I think what Vishal spoke about gave you an idea of how strong technically we can be. Thirdly, very different and unique distribution points. High storage and touch points that we already spoke about, fewer touch points in the marketplaces, and finally, a very, very traditional system, I would probably use the word saying that it's rural, it's not very upmarket out there. There's a lot of work that's to be done, even for the larger organizations and larger FMCG players as well. So our journey began, like I said, in 2022. We officially launched in 2023. We started with general trade, which is the larger unorganized section. We then went into organized trade. We further went into building our own stores and kiosks across malls. And finally, we went into the export markets by Jan 2024. So it was about a year-long journey as we piloted and expanded into the offline space. So when we went in there, we found that there were a few critical sections that we needed to address. So these are a few headers there: packaging, planning and procurement, formulation, warehousing, logistics, and data management. I'll take you through the challenges that we faced along as we go in. First of all, primary packaging. The offline market, everything is about shelf throw. How visible is your product on the shelf? If you have a L'Oreal product and a Pilgrim product, which one would you notice first? Why? Why does it stand out versus the other? What is the size value impression? How big is your product compared to the other? If they're the same grammage, is your 30 ml product looking smaller or bigger compared to a Unilever or a L'Oreal product? Thirdly, the industry code. What are the standard formats? Are all the products in tubes? Are you in a bottle? Do you look odd? Are all the products in jars? Why are they in jars? How do you crack that model? Fourthly, the offline logistics network is so complicated that there's multiple touch points, like I mentioned. So your product can be subject to a lot of stress. Is it offline ready? Does it have the right packaging, or is it easily damaged? Is it prone to catch dust and become dirty and then unfit to be on the shelf? And finally, how tamper-proof is your product? Is it easy to just pilfer out some product, just take off a little, and people won't know until they've bought it and taken it home? Secondly, on your order packaging, there's a lot more complexity there. We usually play with large case sizes when we're an online brand. Like a 30 ml bottle, you would probably have case sizes of 150 to 200 units in a box, which makes it very bulky to maneuver and handle. Almost 15 to 20 to 30 kilos per box, which is not very efficient for a large distribution network like we would face in offline. Secondly, there's bubble wrap on every individual SKU. Can you imagine how irritating that is to unbox at a distributor point? You've got about 100 units inside a box, and he's opening each and every one, tearing off the tape, taking off that bubble wrap. It's not attractive anymore. It's more of a nuisance. He would take almost an hour or two just to unbox a single box. That's something that you need to solve for. Finally, identifiers on the box. Which product is inside that box that he's received? Shipping labels that you'll need to have there. Tamper-proofing that we already spoke about for products, similarly for boxes. Do you have tamper-proof tape that will prevent your products from being pilfered and mishandled on the way? And lastly, box sturdiness. Is it a strong, sturdy box that can be handled? Do you have inner partitions for separations and stronger dunnages to protect your products? On product formulation, it's pretty basic. You need to have a wider shelf life window so that your product can sustain and last in the market without coming back to you through reverse logistics very soon. a standard rule of thumb is at least a 3-year shelf life is good for a product to be sold in, to be held sufficiently and have a higher chance of sale. Most D2C brands start with about a year or two of product shelf life because you need to test your product that long, keep it on stability until then. But it gives you a very narrow window to sell and a very high chance of market returns, which we face. Thirdly, on planning and procurement, we all think that you can't predict the future, right? The future is unpredictable. Supply chain analysts like we thought we had it cracked, we had it figured out. We said challenge accepted. And then we went ahead, and in the next 1 week, we changed that same forecast 5 or 10 times. That's how crazy it can get, because you never know what your primary placement estimation is. You assume that it'll be 3x of a notional sellout. You never know what the replenishment unpredictability would look like. It can be extremely high, extremely low. So how much inventory is too much? How much is too little? You need to convert testers, because offline is not like online. You can't give that kind of picture to your product. You can't just show them an image and assume that they would know. They wouldn't look at Instagram Reels to know what they want to buy. They would want to touch and feel your product. So there have to be testers available, which is at least 1 to 5% of the products that are posted out there. So how do you account for that inventory as well? There are quantity purchase schemes that result in spikes and troughs in your sale. How do you plan for that inventory well in advance? There's regional billing constraints. You can only bill from the closest warehouse, because it doesn't make sense for you to transfer a product all the way across 2,000 or 3,000 kilometers. It has to be as small and as short as possible, and a single supply. So how do you ensure that the right inventory is available at the right hub? And that all boils down to catalog customization that different partners and different channels have for different products. So how do you tailor that catalog availability across all of these nodes, factoring all the previous 4 points that we discussed? Next, we move to warehousing and operations and logistics. So you've got single picking. In e-com or in Q-com, you can pick a batch of 50 or 100 orders. It's very quick at the packing station to segregate. You can't do that in an offline model. You'll have some orders that have 50 units. You'll have some that have 2, while you might have some that might have 500 units in a single order. So it's very hard to customize that and do sorting at the last step. You have to do single order picking. How do you maintain that inventory? How do you speed that operation up? If you have a large carton with 150 units, your order multiples are so small in offline at times, because there are smaller retailers and distributors, you have to break that big box. How do you handle that break bulk and manage that with speed when there are expectations of same-day delivery and same-day dispatch? How do you manage manual order errors that can come in? Because it's not as simple and it's not as tech-savvy as it is in the e-commerce space. There is a manual guy, a sales admin officer, punching orders that he receives from distributors. He can make errors. That can result in a lot of redundant flows. There's ERP pricing that has to be maintained in a sacrosanct manner. How does that get handled? And finally, customer issue resolution. If there is an issue when you supply, if someone finds out that there is something missing in the box, there's something short, there's something interchanged, there's something that is wrongly supplied or is damaged, how do you make sure that the error emanated from the warehouse in time, provide that feedback, and close that loop? Because if you don't, it is a very leaky bucket that someone could expose, someone could exploit. So it's important to get it solved accurately and push back when there is something that is wrong at the customer's end and not yours. Finally, on logistics, there's physical documentation that is super critical. You need to have the right documentation when you supply. Your vehicles get checked at multiple points at the time of delivery. You have to have a very strong physical proof of delivery with a signature to prove that the stock was indeed delivered at the distributor point or the retailer point, where they can't contest that back, because it's their signature on it. You need to ensure that you have an e-way bill, or whatever mandatory statutory requirements the government imposes for us to comply with. Secondly, you need to have the right transporter in the mix. We always think when in e-commerce that you could have a central aggregator who can handle the entire supply for you. Doesn't quite work with logistics in offline, because out there, it's all about horses for courses. A particular channel, like let's say a D-Mart or maybe a Shopper Stop, would require delivery as per appointment. Yeah, there are fixed slots where you need to go and deliver. If you don't wait out there, they won't accept your order. So there has to be a transporter who's familiar with that kind of dynamic, is able to comply with those expectations, and give you runtime feedback saying, I've reached the store, I'm not getting through, can you please get this solved real time? So how do you make sure that that gets solved and have a customer feedback system that gives you that loop, that gives you that conversation real time and live. In sales, there's direct feedback that has to be set up, so you need to have a right team that can be available 24/7. You can't say that I'm in a meeting, I'm unavailable right now, I'll call you back a half hour later. That's a failed delivery and a missed opportunity to deliver. On e-commerce and on your own website, it's a very, very deep funnel. You've got IVRs and phone calling that can be handled. You then go one step lower to a chatbot, to email, and multiple flows before the final conversation reaches you, where you filter out a lot of the noise. In offline sales, there is no noise that you can filter out. It's all there. You've got to take it all in, and you have to figure out what's the real meat of the problem. How do you get a good ticketing system to solve through and get the right information to the right folks who can address that problem? So we worked through this, and we tried to get a tailored approach that could solve this at a channel level. Firstly, packaging. This is how our Pilgrim products used to look before. Crowded, complex text, not a very clear contrast in the text that you see out here. The key benefits are not very defined. We moved to a more of a contrasting display, a teal background, which we standardized as a color, a cream patch in the middle, and our product names displayed fairly large, which you can see easily on the shelf, and anyone who sees that identifies it as a Pilgrim product now. When we do our market visits, we used to struggle to find which product is on the shelf. We find it a lot more easy now. But it wasn't as simple as what it looks like to you guys here. We actually went through an intermediate iteration as well. We also played around with different colors. We thought we'll try something new, have multiple colors, multiple products for different types of categories. But then we were told that your products don't seem to be in sync. It looks like you have orange, you have yellow, you have blue. It looks like you're all over the place. What is the standard Pilgrim color? Would someone look at a product and recognize, this is a Pilgrim product, that teal is Pilgrim? And that's where the idea came in, and all our products now are complying to this new architecture that you see on the right, a lot more easy for customers to identify us. Next, size value impression that I spoke about. These are a few competitor brands that I've put up here. It's exactly the same grammage and pack size that you're seeing, that we have out here on the right. But look at the competitor product, how big it looks because of the box that they've put it in. It's just that can make such a big difference. Just look at the product on the right, how wide and how tall that box is compared to ours. How do you make sure that you build a packaging that is compliant with the industry code and with the market leader, so you look large enough, you look strong enough on the shelf, and the customer is enticed to pick you up? We use the same logic and science and architecture to redesign our exclusive brand outlets from the colors that you're seeing above to what you're seeing below, so that it stands out, it's more uniform across. And the products inside also, as you can see, are more noticeable in the same kind of architecture in teal. Next, we move to shipper redesign. We condensed our shipper sizes from a 150-odd size for a 30 ml product. We brought it down to just about 70-odd units in a box. Much easier to carry, about 6 or 7 kilos on an average. That was the rule of thumb. We broke it down into inner boxes as well, multiples of 6 in smaller boxes packed inside that larger box. So for smaller retailers that order, a small box just gets picked out and packed. Easy to segregate. It has a shipping label on it, so the distributor or the retailer knows what product is in there. We moved to inner partitions into orders that had to be broken even further, even smaller than sizes of 6 and mixed up. We brought in some inner partitions that we could put to segregate our products so they are able to move in and be pulled out easily without bubble wrap. We brought in from larger to smaller boxes that I already mentioned, but more sturdy, 5-ply boxes rather than 3-ply, because you never know how far your product is going. Just like the theory of constraints, right? You're only as strong as your weakest link. It's the same in even offline logistics. You're only as strong as the worst condition your box is going to be put through. So that's what we designed for. We brought in tamper-proof tape as well, and clear identifying shipping labels that also mention what product goes into the box. We brought in a very robust S&OP process, sales and operations planning, where we brought in national and regional level demand inputs. We've brought in catalog management very rigorously. There's a cross-functional team that sits together, really thrashes out every data point. It's all numbers and it's all guesswork at some point, but how do we make that happen and gradually feed a tool that gives us dividends a year or two later once it has enough historical inputs in there? How do we estimate free issue requirements across the channel? How do we get in distribution expansion, new store expansion? How do we factor that in, looking at the catalog and the runtime and the sales and sellout that we're looking at already? We put in a very robust process out there that is giving us pretty high dividends in return on our investment. Next, on logistics. We identified a very strong transport management system that will cut through the noise and figure out a way of getting some semblance of an organized logistics network within. We are working with a particular partner to solve for that. We are solving for reverse logistics in the logistics verse, and how the kind of capabilities out there so that an order can be even 50 units of return that has to be brought back, or it could just be a single unit. Partners at a regional, at a sub-regional level who can bring those products back to us intact. Turnaround time that is extremely swift within our warehouse, so we can issue credit notes, runtime, and we don't lose a lot of steam out there. And finally, last mile reliability and route optimization. In Mumbai, I'm sure a lot of you know Mumbai as one of the largest metros in India. You would think it's a big market, there would be a very high, strong, organized trade network. Not quite. You've got markets like Crawford Market out there where you can't even walk, let alone have a car or a truck enter. Even a two-wheeler can't enter there. You have men with carts, manually pulled carts that walk through. And if they go wrong, if they don't find the store easily, they go ahead, they have to turn around and come back all the way. There's no U-turns allowed in there. How do you have a transporter who's able to solve for that particular problem, runtime, so there are no phone calls coming to you saying, I can't get through, I'm not able to walk into this lane? How do you identify partners who are able to handle a similar constraint, let's say in a Delhi, or even in a remote part of the Northeast, let's say in Meghalaya? That is the kind of model and kind of structure that we need to identify and build, and that can only happen by going deep into the markets, understanding at a local level on who are the partners who are strong out there, getting those names in, and getting that system established and the lanes built. Route optimization is constant. You think that it makes sense that since you're in Mumbai, Nagpur is in the west, I can handle that from my Mumbai warehouse. Maybe not. Maybe it's better served from a Hyderabad, which is technically in the south, but it's closer, and there's a better established network to feed in that city. So identifying those kind of route optimization techniques as well. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings me to the Bulletproof framework that I would like to walk you through. Analyze and speculate and get your demand in order with very, very deep conversations. Pull people together, understand the network expansion, the distribution expansion that's happening, the kind of demand inputs that you can get in there, what kind of unexpected testers, quantity purchase schemes are being planned. Position your inventory at the right place. And if you get it wrong, keep recalibrating every month. Keep relooking if you've got your inventory right. Is the catalog changing? Get that adjusted. Don't be afraid to cut SKUs from the catalog and take inventory back. It's better off taken back than left in the stores to die and expire and then be brought back for destruction. Third, execute. Get your logistics right. Go deep. Go get into the trenches and identify what works out there and solve for that. A simple example on logistics, one of our distributors had a very high set of returns. We got into it to understand why that was happening, only to realize that his problem was he never knew when the shipment was coming into him. He said he placed his order, but he didn't know when it was invoiced to him. His men downstairs, he was sitting in an office on the second floor. He didn't know when the stock was coming back on the first floor, and he wasn't aware, and they would decline the stock saying we weren't expecting the shipment. We started a simple intimation emailer. As soon as the stock was invoiced, there was an auto emailer that was going to the distributor and his team, letting them know that this is the lorry receipt or the airway bill number for the shipment. This is the estimated delivery date. This is the invoice number, the invoice attached. It solved it to no end. Everything became a lot more simpler. That distributor has come down to literally 0 returns and refusals right now. It's as simple as that. And he also called out that we are one of the best to solve that particular problem, which even some of the larger FMCG clients couldn't. So it comes down to just identifying those kind of small little instances that can cause problems and friction. And that all comes through feedback, which you take in, refine, and get it solved at a much deeper level. Standardize early, over-communicate with partners, trust data over intuition, always get the data that you need, constant feedback sourcing and incorporation, and you build partners holistically. Don't write off a partner if he gets it wrong one time. It's a learning experience. Build your partners up. We had a partner who was horrible and horrendous back in 2023. He's one of my main go-to partners now. I have anything urgent that I need to move through, he's the guy I reach out to. So build your partners, work with them to solve for your problems critically. And doing that, we are hoping we have built an unbreakable and unshakable supply chain, moving from an online play to an omni-channel play where we blend between the two worlds. We've built a resilient and agile and a strong partnership-led business. So that's about it. Thank you.